Vande Gurum, a brief video about CA. Yeah, before we officially start our session, I have a small, very important announcement that we are preparing the next 2022 principal conclaves in 25 cities in India. So we will intimate you. And one more important information that, with the 75th years of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are introducing our, the usual that Mark of Excellence Award for 75 principals from each state. So we will definitely circulate that information. Principals with the 5 years of experience can apply it. There is no processing registration fee or anything. The awards will be, decided by a jury, and all that information will pass out to you. Now, coming to our today's program, I'm so glad. Actually, I expected Mr. Krish Venugopal to do a decent introduction, because he only introduced both this resource person, excellent resource person in the field of medical science, practicing physicians, and when I met them, they have studied the best colleges, institutions in the country, served many years in the UK, and Dr. Krishnamurthy was explaining me about the FHEA, course they have done in UK. Is in my understanding that is actually a professional, counseling, license for professionals, if I am not wrong. So they can take counseling classes for professionals. So highly qualified to, great doctors are with us, and the problem, the issue which they are going to deal is, are our children safe? Very important session, and I believe this will be an eye opener for all of us. And Mr. Krishnamurthy, you can see his, because some of the terms I am not able to explain it, highly complicated medical terms. But one thing I am sure that highly qualified medical professionals we have, and And even Madam Asha ma'am was actually, Dr. Asha was, sharing me some of the newspaper reports. It's happening in UK about the child abuse, child molestation, all this. Very, very striking informations. And without much time, I invite both our resource person to enlighten us with their knowledge and experience. Ma'am and Dr. Asha and Dr. Krishnamurthy, welcome to CEIR Conclave. Vande Guru. Please start.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good evening to you all. We are both very happy to receive the invitation from CEIR for this talk, and we'll be glad to share our experiences and our knowledge in the field of child safeguarding with all of you. Who are involved with children on a daily basis and have a position of huge responsibility as far as their lives go. So I think child safeguarding has become a very important issue, has always been an important issue, but is now far more important even since the COVID pandemic. Also, I think over the years, the variety of ways in which children can be abused has increased so much that it is sometimes very, very difficult to identify, very difficult to confirm, and very difficult to manage as well. Unfortunately, in India, we still don't have a good platform or a good training method to identify and manage child protection. And just like any other aspect that we have been involved in, this is also something that needs to be learned, and you need to learn the basics and then go through it. With years of experience, you become better and better at managing things. That's the only way I can think about it. And it's only in the last decade or so that even the UK and the US have started having regular courses for child protection. We are both pediatricians who have been in UK for many, many years and working at the highest levels. And therefore, we have been very active participants in child safeguarding, both in practicing and in teaching and training as well. So I'll start today's session, and then Dr. Krishnamurthy will carry it forward and show you different scenarios which we have found very difficult to solve as well. Bear with me as I share the screen. I hope my screen is now visible to all of you. So are our children safe in this current situation, both nationally and internationally? You are just inundated with daily newspaper headlines that scream at you about many different types of abuse that is happening all over the world. And these are some of the recent headlines. And now, just to take you through the basics and of internationally, the UNICEF has always had a very strong stand about ending violence against children. All children have the right to grow up in a safe environment free from violence. And it is well known that abuse and exploitation of children is mostly done by people who are known to the child. And these include parents, other family members, caretakers, teachers, employers, etc. So there is significant evidence that the experiences in the childhood, in early childhood, can significantly impair their ability to learn and socialize and create them to be the type of adults that sometimes will continue to do the same things as well. Unfortunately, Southeast Asia has got the maximum incidences of physical violence to children. Again, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child applies to all children, and they specifically say that children have the right to be protected from being treated and mistreated in any way. And ultimately, it's all the government's job to ensure that children are properly cared for. So at the highest level, the governments are the people who are responsible for the care of the children. And when children are maltreated, it is a sign that the governments are not functioning. I come from God's own country, but unfortunately, in recent times, Kerala has had the most child sexual abuse complaints. It could be that people in Kerala are more aware and will report more, but it could also mean that there are more cases happening as compared to the other places. These are some of the other headlines that I have seen in just the last year when I have been here. So the COVID situation has definitely worsened everything that has happened. And as you can see, Assamese girls, child was battered in Kottayam. So it's a national problem when children move from one place to the other as well. Every family with domestic violence will have a child with who is being abused. So even if you say that it's just the parents who are warring with each other, they have not hit the child, there is still other types of abuse going on, particularly emotional and mental abuse. And when children try to get away from their parents and try to sit on their computers in their bedrooms, then they are the targets of online abuse as well. So either way, in all families with domestic violence, it is almost universal that there is some degree of child abuse happening. Again, this is the statistics from the United States of America. The CDC has done the study, and you can see that shockingly, about 3 children die every day from abuse. And these are the numbers from just 2015. So where does abuse happen? As I said, most people who abuse children are very well known to them, and most of the abuse happens at home. And then maybe in the next door neighborhood or in the abuser's place. So the child has gone there willingly most of the times. And among the abusers, again, you can see that neighbors and relatives qualify quite highly. And then also you can see teachers as well, who are in a position of power and to whom the child is quite close. The child will obey almost everything that the teacher says. So what is our duty towards children or towards recognizing abuse? So all organizations have a duty in law to ensure that they safeguard and promote the welfare of the children and the young people. This means that everybody working in your institutions, and I'm not just talking about principals, all teachers, all staff, all attenders, everybody who's standing at the main door or your security, they all have a responsibility towards the children, and they all need to be able to recognize signs or to report child abuse. So all staff working in any setting need to be able to understand abuse. Now, whose job is it to protect the child? Yes, universally, it is the parents' job to protect their children wholly, but also teachers, neighbors, friends, policemen, politicians, doctors, nurses, Anganwadi workers. So in short, anybody who comes into contact with the child is responsible for protecting that child because they can't do it for themselves. So we start off by believing whatever the child says. So there's a campaign that has been started in Alabama in the US, which says start by believing. So if a child comes and talks to you, you believe them first and then you begin the process. Obviously, the child has talked to you because he thinks he can trust you, because he thinks that you might do something for him. So we are talking about suspected abuse here. We don't have to even confirm it until later. So how do we train people to manage child abuse? As I said earlier, there are many, many steps towards the training. So first of all, we increase the awareness of people, train them to be alert to the idea that a child might be abused, that at least 10 to 15 out of every 100 children you meet are abused in one way or the other. We teach them to recognize abuse. What are the signs of physical, mental, emotional, or sexual abuse? Teach them to investigate abuse. So you are aware, you have seen something, you suspect something. How do you investigate that? And having investigated, How would you confirm that that is abuse? Because you can have the same marks from many diseases or many other things as well. Once you have confirmed abuse, you know that the buck doesn't stop with you. You have to report it to authorities. And who was the next person in line who you should report it to? How should you take action? So these are the many steps in training. So as I said earlier, we have been training people in child safeguarding, and in the UK especially, they have now got a system by which they train people in levels. And level 1 training is for all staff, all people who come into contact with children. These can be just nannies, traffic policemen, bus conductors, teachers, almost anybody who comes into contact with children at all, security people even in the school. So it is mandated that everyone coming into contact with children should have the basic training on when, how to, and to whom to report they suspect any abuse in a child. So they don't need to do anything other than see the child and report to somebody else. And there are many ways of suspecting things, many things to look out for. This is a one-day course followed by an assessment test and a recertification every 3 years or so. So I'm just giving you an example from the level 1 course. So we describe the types of abuse. It's not a small subject. So there's a whole variety of ways in which the child abuse can manifest. Some of them might look quite benign as well. So we talk about describe different types of child maltreatment, how common it is, and what the impact can be, what you should do if you have got concerns. And the importance of sharing information. And I'm not talking about gossiping about children. This is sharing information in a responsible way to your senior person or superior or the next in line. And that is why there has to be an hierarchy in managing child protection as well. So identify what to do if you feel that your concerns are not being taken seriously. The level 2 training is mainly at a senior level. So we are talking about principals here or more senior police officers. All doctors come to this category. Nurses in children's hospitals, all of them come into this category. And also nannies, school, little children's teachers, etc. So again, it is training and recertification every 3 years. Then you have level 3 training. As I said, it is for pediatricians and healthcare staff who deal only with children, or senior police officers. And at that level, you need to be able to recognize and manage quite serious types of abuse. And then we are also at this level talking about documenting what you have seen, what the child has told, how it will stand up in court, how to be an expert witness in court, and to take your case forward so that either the child is taken away from the family or the parents are punished in some way. So that's at quite a higher level, not for everybody. So from an institutional point of view, every educational institution has to have an officer for child protection. This will be an additional responsibility. It doesn't have to be a doctor or a nurse, but almost anybody in the institution can be an officer for child protection. That is a person to whom everybody in that school will report. That is a person who must make the decision to either escalate it or to hold it at that time. And in the same way, every panchayat should have somebody who's available for the responsibility. Every corporation, every district child welfare should have an officer, state child welfare officer. So all these child safeguarding has become an additional topic, just like child vaccination. This is an additional topic, but a very comprehensive thing that is getting more and more serious every day. So all schools can, I think, very easily have a generic email. Nowadays, everybody has got a smartphone, access to email. Children may not want to talk. They can easily send emails. A 24/7 helpline. All anonymous calls should be investigated. It could be the next door neighbor saying something. There should be a logbook of all complaints. And at a higher level, finally, the government, health secretary, health minister are absolutely responsible for the welfare of all children in the state, the police officers at the highest level, and the High Court judge. So as I started off by saying, awareness is the only way or is the starting step for protecting children. And awareness is what we should seek to spread because that's the only way that we can now go forward. You can't think that child abuse will stop and settle down. It is not a pandemic. It's not going to go away. It is just going to increase and take more and more forms. So now I will stop sharing this screen for Dr. Krishnamurthy to take this forward. And then at the end of the session, we can have 10 or 15 minutes to take any questions that you might have. Thank you. Over to you, Moorthy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Aesha. Is my screen visible for you now?
Noted. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Aesha, for giving a nice introduction to the topic about which we are really passionate. And about 35 years of experience in dealing with children has certainly ignited our passion for the welfare of children. And it is from that the current activity stems. So Aesha has given you an introduction about the various issues that are seen on a daily basis. And now let me take you through through what is happening on a regular basis now. First of all, I would like to say that there is no disclosure of confidential information anywhere in this presentation. I have no conflict of interest to disclose. And now, why is it that this topic is important? I think in no unclear words, the previous speaker, Asha, has given you the message through newspaper clippings and all that. I would go a bit more deeper into this, right? In the earlier days, like for example, during our days as children, the family bonding was really good. The family, religion, and cultural practices seem to be on a downward trend. These used to be the basic bonding features for the whole society, or the whole family, the whole society, the community, and all that. And with decrease in that sort of bonding, it seems that children are trekking into an unsafe area. So because of the slackened family ties, it's not the biological mother and the father who are always with the child. There may be somebody else involved in that because of the family relationships and all that. In which case, children fail to get into the same wavelength with that person. And as a result of that, their focus shifts from family to friends. Friends are their chosen family. And because of that, they depend on friends to give them advice. And who knows what advice they are giving, and who knows whether that is really appropriate. And there is nobody to monitor that. That is the other issue. Thirdly, there is a generation gap. The expectations of we as parents or people of our age versus the expectations of the current generation, maybe the Y generation or the Z generation, they call it, right, are totally different. They expect to have much more freedom, while you think that no, they shouldn't be having that much of freedom and all that. Because of that, conflicts arise most often in households. And as a result of that, children tend to come out of that and then go for advice elsewhere, which again precipitates the problem. Social media has a big role to play, because whatever is seen in social media, when the child sees that in the first instance, they think that this is the norm. They accept it as the norm. So if it is good things that they see, they follow those things. But social media, there is no one to control that. Yes, there are parental controls and all that is available, but to what extent is it effective? And that is where it becomes important. We need to have some control on that. Let us talk about what we face as parents. Needless to say that the demands at the workplace is much more, and stress associated with work is much more. As a result of that, today's parents, particularly youngsters who are parents, are not able to give as much time to their children as they would like to, at least because of the stress and demands at the workplace. That means that these children seek whatever help, love, and affection from other sources. And who is this providing? There isn't anybody who is monitoring that. And last but not least, the awareness about abuse, awareness and access to ways of complaining has certainly increased in recent days. As a result of that, all these issues that used to happen in the past, they never used to be highlighted. But now it has come in the open, and that's the reason why we are possibly seeing much more of them. Moving on, I would say, what is the bottom line here? Now, I don't think that any of you would disagree with me if I say that children have very much the right to live safely in this world as any of us. Do you agree with that? Yes. It is the duty of every adult coming into contact with children to ensure their health and safety. I'm sure that Asha has emphasized this, but I know this is something that needs to be re-emphasized. Safety just encompasses necessary supervision to avoid danger to children in any form. And we said health and safety. And what is good health? Good health is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, but includes all-round physical, mental, and emotional well-being, which is the definition of the WHO. This is if only your physical, mental, and emotional well-being is well taken care of, then you are considered as healthy. Now we should give children a guided freedom. Guided freedom means freedom with some control to express and explore issues all around them, which helps them to develop, which helps all-round development of children, and they grow out to be responsible citizens. Creating a sense of fear, suppressing their opinions, and overprotecting them damages their mental health and impairs their social interaction in the long run. And you would again believe or agree with me that the family and the community where children live have a lot to play in shaping the mental health and well-being of tomorrow's citizens. And each of you have a part to play in that. So how do we increase the awareness? Because you just heard from the previous speaker, Asha, that you need to improve the awareness. Now let us face some stark facts here. Children do not come out openly about any harm done to them, essentially because they sometimes even don't recognize that this is harm. Now, this harm to children is more so in the case of disabled and vulnerable children, more so when harm is caused to the child by persons closely known to the child. You just heard that they are the ones who are the perpetrators in most instances. Vulnerable children are those in unstable relationships and socially and economically deprived ones. Close observation of abused children would show aberrations in their behavior. And what are these behavioral aberrations? Excessive fear, persistent withdrawal, age inappropriate advances, sometimes bruising in protected areas of the body which wouldn't get bruised when they fall down or things like that, bruising and fractures in children who are not mobile, etc. should raise an alarm about possible abuse in the minds of any adult coming into contact with children. And we also said earlier that any disclosure by a child to any adult should be viewed with its own seriousness, believe it, and start action. And lack of action on such disclosures by an adult is punishable by law in most countries. Now with that, I'm taking you through a couple of scenarios. Look at this. As you can see, this is a 3-year-old girl who has been presenting to the hospital with the parents saying that she fell downstairs and has sustained this bruise on the cheek. Do you believe this story? How many of you believe this story? Well, I don't. So let us just look at what has happened. As you can see, there are recent horizontal linear bruises extending across the cheek, and they are consistent with an adult hand slap. In the sense, this is something, if you see this reddish, and even if the child doesn't tell you, it is a story that unfolds by itself. And you see this, certainly you have to take the child into confidence and ask, why? What happened? Right? Do we not have the responsibility to do that? That's a simple scenario. And the scenarios could start like this. And it could become much more complex. And I am going to show you a complex scenario. Well, let us see. Now, this is something that I encountered in my practice. Obviously, the personal information is not there. Now, a 7-year-old girl was brought in by parents to the emergency department with history of fall and difficulty in walking thereafter. And when the child was examined, there was a possible fracture of the bones in the right leg. There are 2 bones there, both of them were fractured, and this was confirmed by an X-ray. And so, straight away, as would be normally done, the child was admitted to the orthopedic ward, and a plaster cast was applied. So far, everything is fine. During ward rounds the following morning, the mother complained that the child got bleeding from the genitalia on a couple of occasions in the past. And she wanted to know whether the child was in early puberty, just because of the maternal anxiety. Remember, this is a 7-year-old girl. It is too early for a girl of that age to go into puberty, but mom has asked this question, and she says that it happened on a couple of occasions. Obviously, the child was examined, and it showed that the child was normally grown, and investigations confirmed that the child was not in puberty, hadn't gone into puberty, which raised the first alarm to the treating physician. Why is this happening? So they went on to explore the family dynamics at that stage, which showed that there was alcohol abuse in the family, domestic violence, and the jobless stepfather was involved in most instances. Moving on, subsequently, the child was taken into confidence and conversation happened, and the child opened up to say that there was sexual abuse by the stepfather on multiple occasions, which caused the bleed, and the child even feared his presence anywhere near her, which is the normal reaction that you would expect any child to have. So what happened? The child believes, particularly the girl, she believed the mother, so she disclosed this to the mother, who told her, just don't worry about it, it's just normal, because she wanted to protect the relationship. Because if the perpetrator gets punished, then the relationship goes into doldrums. So she said, it's okay, just leave it like that. But the child didn't stop at that. At school, she went and told her teacher that this was happening. And straight away, the teacher confronted mom. And what did the mother do at that stage? She locked the child in the room. When she went to work, preventing the child from going to school so that this doesn't come further to light. And the stepdad had the key to the room. Mom was away at work and he entered the room again. In the absence of the mom, the child saw this, was horrified. She opened the window, jumped off the 2nd floor window, causing fracture of the neck. Just look at the story here, how complicated it is. What I want you to look at in this situation is what are the missed opportunities here. See, when this child was brought to the emergency department, the receptionist at the registration or the nurse who was looking at the temperature, looking at the weight, etc., could have explored who are with the child. At that stage, it would be known that it's not the biological father, it's the stepfather, because that is documented in the notes. The doctor who examined the child should have explored how did this fracture happen? Why did he fall? Did he slip? Or what happened? From what height he fell and all that? If you, rather than accepting that fracture is just due to the fall, if you had asked the child, how did it happen? She would have said, I jumped out of the window. The child is quite innocent. And then the question would be, why did you jump out of the window? And then it unfolds the whole story. The nurse, we already said that the child was terrified about her stepdad. And so in the presence of the stepdad who has brought this child to the emergency, the child's interaction with the stepdad certainly would not have been a love relationship. It would have been a hate relationship. So the nurse and the doctor could have noted the interaction of the child with her parents. Total fear and withdrawal should have raised the suspicion of foul play, even if nothing was disclosed at the start. And at that stage, issues like alcohol abuse and domestic violence, etc., would have come. And when mom tells the doctor that there has been bleeding on a couple of occasions, right? Just ask the question, okay, why did you not seek attention when it happened first? Well, she has to come up with an answer. She might say, oh, well, I thought it's just casual, so I left it like that. And second, so you are just trying to explore that. And if you had explored the reason for the delay in seeking attention, we could have had more information at that stage. And when the child disclosed this to the teacher, if she had taken a bit more time, taken the child into confidence and explored a bit deeper, the child would have given much more information there, rather than getting locked up in the room and having to jump out through the window. So you can see that it has been a catalog of missed opportunities. We could have prevented this at any stage. Straight, even before all these things happened, prevention could have been done. So that takes us to the question, when should you be worried? Because we see children every day. When should you be worried about a child? What are the telltale signs in most instances? I'm putting them in boxes here. Frequent absenteeism in school. Child doesn't turn up in school for no reason. There are no explanations. Missing routine vaccinations. If you look at the vaccine, the school nurse will be able to say, oh, well, this child needed to have these vaccinations. It has not been done. She had a doctor appointment. She didn't go for that. All tells you that the child has been neglected in most instances. Now, most parents would certainly want to show that they are caring for their child. So if the child is coming to school not properly dressed up, has poor personal hygiene, outgrown hair, nails, etc., they view it with a bit of suspicion. If the child is not making friends with her peers, that means that there is something wrong in the approach of the child itself. If she has an excessive fear of strangers, yes, stranger anxiety is something that is normally there, but children outgrow that by about 2-3 years. And then they have a guarded approach. If they don't know a person, they don't mingle with that person very closely. But after they know this person for some time, they certainly open up with them. That is what you see. An excessive fear of strangers or an excessive openness with strangers, both which should be viewed with suspicion. Child having poor food habits and failing to gain weight in comparison to peers. Poor school performance, flagging it to the parents, absolutely no response, certainly is another thing to raise a suspicion. History of unstable family relationships, abuse, domestic violence, this the teachers are unlikely to get that, but then at the time of admission, you may be able to get that. And when the child comes to school, yes, there are exposed portions of the body and unexplained marks on exposed portions of the body. Just ask the question, why did this happen? And then poor self-esteem from the child. If that is there, the child doesn't believe in himself, thinks that, well, I'm good for nothing. If that is the sort of way they believe, there must be something behind that. So when you have done that, when you have suspected that, the next question is, what should you do next? Right? Yes, I'm aware that most of you are in senior level positions of power, but at all levels, there must be, you might have a supervisor. So please don't try to do it alone. Inform your next level supervisor about your concerns regarding the child. And it is not a word of mouth. Document it. Because we know that these things can go a long way and can land up even in a court of law. And if nothing has been documented, nothing has happened. So it is important that it's documented. Arrange for a discussion with the family about your concerns in presence of your supervisor and the school nurse, and try to keep the child out of such a discussion, because we don't want the child to be stressed. The discussion can happen separately. And then, as the teacher, you can monitor the child for improvements or worsening of concerns. And if it is noted to worsen, escalate to the next higher level and document the same. Find out whether there are other children in the household. What is their status? What is their progress? At this stage, parents would smell that there is something going on there. And I have seen in many instances that they decide to change the school, ask for transfer certificate and go out to another school where they can start everything on a fresh page. No, what you should do is keep the new school informed of the issues in writing, not again word of mouth, through the head of school, which is something which, if it happens, it would try, all these problems can stop to some extent. Now, I don't expect cooperation from parents or from perpetrators who do these things willingly. And if it is that there is non-cooperation from the perpetrator, not the parents alone, I have put parents because they are the ones who are responsible in most instances, parents, neighbors, or close associates. Now, if the child displays injuries, etc., child would need to be examined, and they need working out for underlying diseases, to rule out underlying diseases. So the pediatrician may be involved at this stage through the school nurse management and all that. And as was already pointed out earlier, if there are major issues and all that, right, it starts off the ball rolling, involving the child welfare team, the social worker, members of law enforcing teams, and all that. And other children in the household, including this child, may be fostered to willing close relatives, or even to the child welfare council. Please be aware that this is an extreme step. It doesn't happen in most instances. And it happens if you know that parents, both of them, if they are married, have parental rights. And if a child is maltreated with an intention to harm the child, by law, you can take away the parental rights from the parent, which means that somebody who is looking after the child will have the parental rights. Remember, we are doctors, we are, other people are among the lay public. We don't have the power to take law into our hands. So our basic role is safety for the child. We are worried only regarding that. But safety of the child comes first before we contemplate action against the perpetrator. Because if the perpetrator goes unpunished, that gives a wrong message to the community, that such things can happen and people can walk off with that. No, that shouldn't be the way. But that shouldn't be your priority. Your priority should be safety for the child, which comes first before contemplating action against the perpetrator. So that's essentially what I have to say. And we are open to questions at this stage. Before that, I would just give you the take-home messages here and then take the questions. I believe that with this short talk, you would agree with us to say that due to a variety of reasons, our children do not appear to be safe in our community. It's not for their fault. It is not your fault. It's due to a variety of reasons. And what we need to do is we need to keep our eyes and ears wide open to be identifying issues before they cause significant harm to the child. Because if we identify issues, we can start the action. And so the child will not be harmed or may not be harmed. Safeguarding is a teamwork. One person holds only one piece of the puzzle and needs to be working in conjunction with the rest of the team to ensure safety to the child. So we all have to join hands. If we need to do good, it's not me, it's not you alone, right? It is we. It goes a long way. And complacency in taking action in suspected abuse equates to abetting the abuse and is punishable by law. I think this is what we have been trying to emphasize all the way through, and we are happy to open the session for questions at this stage. Thank you very much for a patient listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the question answer session, those who want to ask the question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you can actually, type in the chat box. So we will take questions from there.
I think Srishan or Bhavik, either of you, if you want to be heading to the questions and just leaving the opening up the questions, anything, what we will do is we will take it up and then decide as to what.
Questions by the time people will type the question. Bhavik sir, you have anything in your mind, you can ask. Shahjahan sir is there.
Yeah, definitely. After listening to both the speakers, I would just like to ask on one question that is related to abuse. Normally at school level, we don't find a question like sexual abuse, but definitely to what level the verbal abuse we would like to decide the verbal abuse, because nowadays, it is happening with all the stakeholders, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent or a child. I would like, how would you define a verbal abuse?
Right. Asha, do you want to answer that question? Or?
No, you go on.
Okay, fine. See, we said that abuse can be in different forms. It can be physical, it can be verbal, it can be emotional, it can take many forms, including sexual. Now, when you say verbal abuse, what happens is anything that affects the self-esteem of the child, saying that you are not doing well at all, you are good for nothing. So such things, if it happens in front of the child, it affects the self-esteem of the child and is at a level equal to that of an abuse. It happens, no child should be compared with another child, which is what we all do. If there are two children in the family, the parents will say, look at the other one, look at the elder one, or look at the younger one. He is doing very well. Why are you not doing that? See, understand that each person is an individual with own ways of doing things and all that. You cannot compare children that way. So making a comparison to somebody who is performing better or somebody who is doing better verbally, physically, all that amounts to abuse. Now, there is a very thin line of demarcation between what we call as, what is it that the parents are trying to say? Parents will say, I was just disciplining the child. You can't call it as an abuse. As a parent, it is my duty to discipline my child to make sure that it is safe. But when does the discipline go beyond that border and come into abuse? It's a big question. We need to understand that when the disciplining happens very often and it goes to the level initially verbal, later going to physical, the answer is no, stop. It is just because we are in a position of power that we are able to do that to children. If you were doing that to a person who is as strong as you, would you do that? Certainly you wouldn't. So that's the way I would approach the situation. Does that answer your question, Dr. Bhavik?
Definitely, sir. But I would like to just add on to your explanation that in schools, we have wellness teacher as well as we have school counselors. But don't you think so that we need consultant pediatricians like you also? Because case to case, it differs. Whether we speak to a lower group or we speak to a children who are into the teenagers, especially, or into the higher teenagers, because over there, the problem is totally different.
I fully agree with you. There needs to be a person with experience in dealing with child abuse, in the sense, in different forms of abuse. It doesn't need to be a pediatrician necessarily. It can be someone who has been trained enough to recognize abuse, to take actions in such cases. And, as we said, at each level, panchayat level, district level, corporation level, all that, there needs to be people in positions of power who have the right experience, to whom all these issues will be flagged up. If you, in your school, if you are the topmost authority deciding that, you would have somebody in your panchayat or in your district or in your corporation to raise this issue. Raise the issue with, have a chat. Certainly, you will find ways how to move forward and all that. So as we said, it is not a one-man effort. It is a teamwork.
Also, as we were saying, it's a very thin line, especially in our country and in all Southeast Asian countries. You will find many parents who will say, oh yes, I did slap my child, and slapping is a way of punishment. The difference between a slap and of course now it is outlawed in almost all countries, and I don't think even in schools, I used to get hit by with a scale and all that. We've all received beatings at school, but I don't think that is possible anymore. And the difference is between a disciplining beating and the type of physical abuse that we are talking about is that physical abuse will cause a mark on the child that will not disappear. So although I have been beaten at school, I have never had beating marks on me, no cane marks, So that type of thing used to happen. Even that is outlawed now. But anything that causes a physical mark on the child is physical abuse, whether the mother intended it or not. That is different. And your verbal abuse, again, makes the child depressed, is affecting the child's morale, is affecting his interactions with people, is making him depressed. That is certainly verbal abuse. And in general, all these types of abuses coexist. So you don't have people who just do physical abuse, just do sexual abuse. Sexual abuse always coexists with everything else. Physical and mental abuse will go together, or mental and emotional abuse. So there is a lot of overlap between all these different types of abuses. So you can't say that I just shouted at him. Shouting is not just verbal, it is also emotional abuse. There will be neglect also. Neglect is another type of abuse. So all of that will coexist.
And Babak, just one more thing. I believe, as elderly people in the society, you as a school student would have noted that, if a child does something seriously wrong, this child in my school days used to be brought to the assembly, where there will be a model punishment that is given in front of everyone, so that the message is very clear. That is what used to be the way. But understand that it causes so much emotional scarring to the child, that this child will have a state of revenge against everyone in the society. So that is all happening. We never knew that. Now we are more aware of that, and we certainly need to take steps to make sure that such things do not happen.
Doctor, there is a question from Geedika Vada, ma'am. Many times law in the country are unable to support the issues raised. In your opinion, how do we get around this bottleneck? A case may be registered, but eventually it gets lost in the system.
I think I would take that question. It's an excellent question, and that is the worry for almost everyone for that matter. As we said, we hold only one piece of the puzzle, and our responsibility is essentially safety for the child. But equally, we should be giving the message that if you harm the child, you don't escape, right? And that is where, in her slide, Asha had shown that who are the ones involved, the health secretary, the minister, the DGP of police, right, high court judges. So all these people are involved. I would just quote an example. For me, when I was working in the UK, we had instances where, we would have what is called as a child protection conference. When a child has been, when we confirm that a child has been harmed intentionally, we would have a conference called in where all these people would be there. A decision would be taken. It would be recorded. And then it is up to the law enforcing authorities to make sure that it is done. So all those things happen. But in our country, as well as in countries like ours, people who are in positions of power normally are able to get off with what they do. And that should stop. And that can happen only through a social movement. And what is the social movement? The social movement is increasing awareness. Nobody, irrespective of their status in the society, has the right to do any harm to a child. So long as we are aware of that and we take steps in that, don't be dejected by the fact that you raised it and it just went unnoticed. No, it doesn't. Keep doing that, right? Keep raising it up. I'm sure that the success would be yours at some point. Don't lose heart. Move on. That's the message.
Yeah. We will take one more question. We have 3 minutes left. This is for both of you, sir and ma'am. I feel the awareness or cautioning should be given to the adults or parents as well as in the form of compulsory awareness meetings. Is it allowed? Shall I repeat the question, the last part?
Is it allowed, I think?
Allowed at the school level, sorry. Yeah.
I think definitely, yes, there should be awareness meetings for the general public, for all parents, for all adults. And as I said, for everybody needs to be aware because everybody is responsible for children, whether it's your neighbor's children or the policeman's children or anybody else. So yes, everybody needs to be aware of what is abuse, what is child abuse, how should we go about recognizing it, suspecting it, escalating it, who to report to. There has to be awareness, and awareness can come only with training because generally we are all busy in our small little areas and we don't know what is happening in the outside world other than by reading it in newspapers. So yes, it should happen. It should happen in the school forums. It should happen in the community halls, in museum complexes, wherever you can have a meeting. I think this is one of the most important things because we have a huge population of children and it's our duty to protect them.
And just I would add one more word to that to say that yes, we need to increase awareness, but equally it is important for us to protect the confidentiality of the persons who have been involved in that, because otherwise it just goes the other way around. Yes, you can discuss it anywhere for that matter. At any forum you can discuss, but then the confidentiality needs to be maintained in all levels, at all levels.
Yes, how many please share your experience?
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Actually, it's about my daughter that she was in 2nd standard or 3rd standard at the time. And her cousin, means my sister-in-law's son, he was in 8th standard. So I had started noticing that whenever he comes in, we will all be watching in the hall TV and all. I saw that he's taking her to the study room and there they both only will be there. So I started noticing them. One day I saw that he had unbuttoned her top and he was kissing her on her lips. So as he's also a child, he's in 8th standard, means he's not that a grown-up boy. So I just went there directly, and when he saw, he was worried, and she started pointing a finger at him. She said that he's doing so. So in a way or other, she knew what he was doing is not good. But she didn't tell me. And he got worried and he said, no, she's blaming me. I said, don't worry, let me ask her. I took him into confidence. I made him sit there calmly, because if the matter goes around the family, it will be a big issue also. So no parents, his parents won't be admitting with that and all. So I took her away. I asked her, what is the matter? Why didn't you tell me? If he is doing so, why didn't you inform me the matter? She said that I didn't, either you could have stopped that or you could have informed me. You didn't do that both. So in a way or other, you were giving him the chance to do so. So do you think you are mother, father, we all kiss you, but do we do that in private? No. We are doing it whenever others are there, we can do that, but he is doing it in a private way. So whenever someone is doing something where nobody is noticing, you have to be aware of that in future also, that that's not a good thing. In that way, I explained to her. And after that, and to him also, I didn't take the matter up, but I asked her to be careful about it. And I said that she's your sister. So your sister, you should not do those things. And in a calm way, I told him. After that, he didn't do anything such that like that with her. And she also was very aware. And later on, she was so bold that even at her school, when a boy, she said that he was winking at me, she came and told me when where others were not ready, able to say. I said, what is wrong? If he's winking at you with his left eye, you just wink back with your right eye. So she said, oh no, others will tease me. I said, what is there to tease? If he can wink, you can also wink back. So the same, when she informed her friends and they also started doing so, the boy was a little bit worried why these girls are doing so. So he stopped that there instantly. And then she said the same boy, he used to pinch the girls. So I said, you now next time when he pinches, you say him, you tell him that you pinch me however you want to pinch, you pinch me today itself. Next day, if you start it again, then I will take action. He said, he asked her what we will do. I will inform it was a convent school. I'll inform the sister the matter. And then he was taken aback. He started thinking that why this girl is saying like that. So that was also stopped like that. So after that, she became so confident that whatever comes on her way, she's very much aware and she's confident enough to fight back with that. So the parents, as a parents, I believe that we should give the confidence to our children. We should be aware. We should be having an eye upon them, and they should know where to say no, a big no.
That is true. So many, you have handled that occasion so beautifully, so professionally, really. And yes, it shows in the, I mean, I can imagine all the girls winking at a boy. Yes. So that must have been really good. There is some amount of sexual exploration that happens in younger children by between each other when they are really quite young, and that is sort of what we call within normal limits, but it is when children know that they are doing something abnormal, they are going into a different room to kiss and then kiss on the lips and all of that. Maybe it comes from watching movies, and that is when things might turn a bit awkward. And it was good that you were there, because you don't know what might have happened, what more might have happened if parents weren't around. 12 and 13-year-old boys are all experimenting. So there are different types of experiments that they can come up with. Yeah.
Wonderful. So that time has come to say, we have spent a quality time together. I request doctor, both of them, to share your details so that the principals can contact and share the details in the chat box, so that they can also contact you for some doubt clearance or any other thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Programs and all. That will be a great help.
Do I put it in the chat box here, or
that will do? That will do.
That will do. Okay.
Yeah. I think it is there. That feedback form will be shared to you. A wonderful session today. We discussed many important aspects, which in today's education. In fact, I remember, one of my classmates was literally harassed by one of our Hindi teacher. After many years, after 30 plus years, his retirement, my friend called him every night and used to abuse him. Finally, it went up to the police case. So just imagine, the hurt, that kind of created in the childhood. After 30 years, this boy contacted sir after his retirement, 30 plus years, and they had a fight over the phone. So this, we have to be very careful, the emotional harassment, the physical harassment. As Soumi ma'am also said, as parents and teachers, we have an extra responsibility, because we are matured. The kids are not matured. They need to learn a lot of lessons from life. So have an eye on them, and definitely both doctors are there to help us anytime. So please keep in touch with them. And I think we passed the time. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. Vande Guru. Vande Guru to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you.